Hey guys, welcome to Coastal Connection in Bridgeport. This is take 3, just by so everybody knows. We're having a good time with Erica Sutter. We're putting her through the ringer because she is our first guest on our show in the studio live. And yes, she's having to go through the lumps and the bumps and the bruises with us. So she's a dynamic trainer, and me and Mike G are glad to have her in the house. Hails from Maryland. Went to Johns Hopkins. She's an All-American, and now we're trying to figure out why Erica left the cold weather of the East Coast to come down here to Florida. Erica, what's up?
Excited to be here and giving my intro for the third time, but so yeah, now I'm up to working with female athletes in Tampa, Florida on speed development and strength training. I had done it in Maryland for 10 years, and I originally started as a skills trainer in my first year of coaching back in 2012. And I realized that I was part of the early specialization problem and giving girls too much of what they were already getting. So I decided to get my master's in exercise science and become a performance coach to help them stay healthy and strong, but to also improve their speed and explosiveness and other parts of their game.
Right. So what made you make sure you changed your mindset? So what you're saying is you evolved it when you started out coming out of. So let me do a comparison. So when you were in college and training in the early years of your career, and then as you became an adult and you're looking at it from a different lens, what was the dynamic change that caused you to evolve as a person?
So I take it back to my childhood. I did strength and conditioning when I was in middle school. That was the first time I was exposed to that type of training, and it absolutely improved my game. I felt more conditioned. I improved my speed, my strength. I stayed healthy for the most part. I had some fluke injuries, but I had never gone through a severe ACL surgery or knee tear when I was going through middle and high school and college. And I definitely owe it to the type of training I was doing. And it's just been a part of me my entire life. And not only was it good for my physical game, but also just my mindset. And it made me a more confident athlete because performance training takes you through a lot of stress. You're undergoing a lot of stimulus in the gym. You're running conditioning drills that are a way higher intensity than the game. Well, at least they should be with proper performance training. And sprint training is the most intense thing your body can do. An all-out 40-yard sprint is extremely demanding. So you're just putting your body through a lot, and it takes a lot of discipline. And knowing that you're capable of doing those things and improving yourself, that's what helped my mindset to become resilient. So I just want to continue to share that with young girls, and that's part of my mission as a coach now.
Okay. So are you coaching at all, or are you just doing training, or you're kind of balancing both worlds? Because, before the show, Erica was talking about something that's really, since COVID has actually become a major discussion point, and the discussion point is time at home, quality time for yourself, mental health time, and it's ironic that people are taking that a little bit more serious than we did prior to COVID. So, Erica, as you look at things holistically, do you think you like being on the coaching side or more on the training side?
Well, I would say I'm doing more of the training side. So the coaching side, I see that more as the tactical side of coaching, the technical side. So with soccer, with the ball or the team coach, I don't want any part of that because I don't like dealing with playing time and formations. I'm dangerous enough to do it, but it's not my passion. I don't enjoy it. My master's degree was in exercise science and performance enhancement. I got my strength and conditioning certification several years ago, and I really enjoy that side of training. I don't think I'm that good enough to be a good team coach. That's not what I do with my athletes. I do all of the work that should be done outside of team practice, because truthfully, speed development and strength can't be done by the team coach because he or she is too busy going over for a lot of these young girls need to seek performance training outside of their team practices to truly develop it. And with the athletes I train in Tampa, I require that they work with me at a minimum twice a week, because they're not going to get to where they want to go with the speed. And a lot of girls come to me for speed development, and speed's a highly advanced skill. And it's just as advanced as learning how to shoot a soccer ball or do 1v1 moves. You have to be refining it year round. So I have this standard for my girls that they have to be getting in that 2 times a week, even in season, even if that means seeing me once a week and then doing your at-home program, they have to get in that twice a week.
All right. So really what you wanted to say is that you really don't need the 48-hour cooling off period is what you're talking about with parents. Now, it's interesting that I've seen some of these people now, and it's funny is that since time has progressed, your skill set as a trainer was a novelty. Now it's like you go on YouTube, there's like 10,000 different people out doing agility training, not doing skill training, but agility training, making your body stronger. But do you think we're at that point of agility training because we no longer play 3 sports? Because what I believed is the reason we didn't have the injuries I had growing up back in the 80s, because I'm old, is that we were 3-star athletes. And so our body got a break from one sport, and because we were using different muscles for another sport. So my question to you is, now that because of scholarships, because of the competitiveness, like baseball year-round, soccer year-round, basketball year-round, that we've put our youth student athletes in a position where they have to specialize as opposed to being a generalist. What do you think?
I get this question a lot, and I hate to give this answer, but it depends. The research does say that if you are going to specialize at a young age before high school, then you are more susceptible to injury or maybe mental burnout, because you don't really have time to enjoy your childhood or to dabble in other sports, or maybe your primary sport coach at that age is going to bench you if you miss soccer for like lacrosse practice. So kids and parents are just feeling the pressure, and I don't really want to point fingers, but it really is in the parent's hand to step up and understand what's best for the kid. Yes, you may have some like prodigies who will get away with specializing, but that's few and far between. There's some professional soccer players who did so since age 8, but it's a very small percentage, while the rest of us, we have to make sure we are getting that variety of sport to develop our coordination. Agility is a big one. I always say the best way to develop agility is not necessarily to see me, especially as an elementary schooler, but to dabble in these other sports. Lacrosse, basketball, those all enhance your reactive ability in soccer and scanning and being able to be aware of your body in space. So I always recommend that type of agility training, or free play in the neighborhood. And free play meaning adults can't be there. It has to be unstructured, where kids set up their own games. And it's great for not just the athleticism part of it, but also teaching kids social skills. And we don't see that much anymore. And there's so much value in that free play for the social aspect for kids, but also there's research on how it builds emotional intelligence. And in boys, if they're roughhousing, they have to learn how to control aggression. So it's really good for so many reasons. And if I could tell parents that you should do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, and that's the specialized model, I would. There's going to be rare cases, but just understand that might not be you.
Oh, you make a good point, because I got girls, and they all started playing manhunt at a very young age. So they were always outside running, and then they, played their variety of sports. But I also pushed a lot of students into martial arts. So a critical thing with me was my soccer players and my football players, I always wanted them to take Taekwondo, and people would always say, why are you always pushing the players to be aggressive and fighting? I said, Taekwondo is not about aggression. It's about defense, but it's also about control emotion. And so I believe today, and you hit on a key point. So when you look at it from a standpoint right now, societal wise, we have a lot of issues, and the data's out there, and I didn't want hit you with a bunch of data today, but the data statistically is out there that, social media is really impacting females in sports, and it's impacting their mental health. And so they did a big study a couple months ago, and it was released to the government about the damage that's happening on adolescents and teenagers on social media and mental health and female athletes. And my heart goes out to the family of the goalkeeper, that she passed away, because if that's not a wake up call for our society, I don't know what it is. So, what's your thoughts about that? Hey guys, Vince here. Hey, if you're looking for a good home mortgage and somebody that's going to work with you, call RAC. They're always on point. They're great with veterans. They're great with anybody that's had some challenges in their past. So if you're looking for a home mortgage, call RAC, Residential Acceptance Corps. Awesome group. The number's below. Talk to you later. And they sponsor and support Embrace the Power.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And as far as the mental health discussion, I mean, there's so many factors that go into the mental health of a teenage girl. And I do think social media is a factor, but it could be so many other things, who she's hanging out with or the type of food that she's eating. Maybe she's not eating foods that nourish her brain and her serotonin levels. So there's a lot of undernourishing and underfueling in young girls. So there's just so many factors. But as far as the social media, it's really dangerous to give a middle school girl TikTok and Instagram, because the brain is not fully developed yet. It doesn't fully mature until you're in your 20s. And that's why I'm always so grateful that I wasn't exposed to social media as a teenager, because it's easier for me as an adult to get on social media and discern what's right and wrong and what's helping me and what's not. For a teenage girl with a precarious brain, it's hard for her to be discerning. And she might be comparing herself so much that it's crippling. Whereas me as an adult who didn't go through that at a young age, I can hop on social media and see someone and compare myself to them. But my mindset is, oh, well, that comparison, that pumps me up. It actually motivates me. It doesn't cripple me. But it's different for an adolescent girl. It might beat her up. It might make her feel insecure. So I'm really extreme when it comes to social media, but I would recommend against it and having limitations on it. I have several remote athletes I work with whose parents don't allow they have it, and they don't know what anxiety is. They've never really felt it, and they're very grounded girls and very motivated, and they do their workouts and they take care of themselves. But that's just what I've noticed as a coach working with girls every single day, that the ones who don't have social media are better off mentally.
Well, you know what? I'm going to agree with you on that. After having 5 girls and having a group that grew up with almost no social media and the back end with a little bit of social media, and just the experience of it, it's hurting our society. And I think we just like China's doing now, and a couple other countries are doing, they're actually starting to go back and kind of get some regulations on it. But the one thing I really liked about is that Mike has your website. And so we're going to pull it up, because if anybody's really trying to find out who you are, where and what you're about, it is your website. And we're going to talk about your book after that. But Mike, if you can pull Erica's website up real quick. Bye. And also, you know what, and her Twitter handle, you're on Instagram and you're on Twitter, right? And what else?
Instagram and Twitter mainly, and YouTube, Erica Suter YouTube. But I've tried to just narrow where I'm at and just get good at a couple things. I used to be on LinkedIn, but then it got super spammy and I was just like, I need to get off of this. So mainly Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right, so let me ask you a question. You have a podcast called The Queens of not soccer. It's what is your podcast?
The Soccer Queens podcast.
Okay, that's what I knew, was because I watch it all the time. So let me ask you, it's kind of edgy. You guys actually touch on stuff that makes some people uncomfortable. But here's the problem: is you can't snowflake around reality. And I really appreciate the fact that before you started doing your podcast, you used to actually write some articles back in the day. That's how I got to meet you. Is that you were on LinkedIn and you were dropping content, but you know what? But you were keeping it real. So from the time that you used to drop that 100% content to now, what has changed?
Oh my gosh. So I'm glad you asked this question because I've never really talked about this publicly. But so yeah, when I started my blog in, I think it was 2014, 2015, I wrote a lot about fitness and female athlete training, but my writing was just really edgy, and I definitely was carrying around a lot of like resentment and trauma that I hadn't worked through. And I write about this in my book, but I was in an abusive relationship in high school, and it took me all through my 20s to heal. And I think a lot of my emotions were like coming through in my writing, and it did get attention and it got me an audience, but I look back at some of those articles and I wasn't proud of some of the language that I had used. And now I've completely just changed my language since I've healed since that time. And I've become more clear on my messaging and what I want to promote to young girls. And with the Soccer Queens podcast, it's more about the training side of things, the performance nutrition. And I think you were talking about my other podcast, the Girls to Queens podcast. So, yeah. And so I do that podcast more on just the lifestyle decisions for young girls. And I don't want girls to go through what I went through. And I want them to make sure that if they do go through a traumatic experience, they get help and they really look to heal and not just be defensive or numb themselves or rely on partying and all this other stuff that they see on social media that's like super toxic for their lives. So my co-host Jenna and I talk a lot about just being very righteous women and living through purpose and faith. And it's been a really cool project. We do it pro bono. We don't sell anything from it. We just have an Instagram account and post really funny reels. And I don't really promote it on my Soccer Queen account, but if people are called to find it, they'll find it. But we've had some really crazy episodes, and we talk about, the dangers of the sexual and the promiscuity culture being promoted by celebrities and how young girls are getting sucked into it. And it's so dangerous and unfulfilling. And we just want to like warn girls that this is not the way. And it's a very interesting show. We have some very controversial topics, but it's just trying to protect young girls from the nonsense.
No, I gotta commend that. Don't trust me. We had a guest on here, the trophy wife, and she was kind of laughing about how she makes fun of certain things and then how people just took her the wrong way. And then the thing is when you start addressing things that are controversial or uncomfortable, and I tell Mike this all the time, our society is kind of morphed into this, that's very uncomfortable, so let's not talk about it. But if we don't start addressing these things, so unlike back in the day, they actually would address the issue, because as my grandfather would say, bad news don't get better with age. So Mike's got your book pulled up. So how long did it take you to write it?
6 months. Yeah, actually exactly a year ago, I started writing it. So June of 2021. And I just woke up one day and told my boyfriend, I was like, I'm going to write a book. And everyone like always asks about my writing process, and I can't really give them anything. I just am like, I woke up and I wanted to write it because it's just 10 years of work, just 10 years of working with young girls and training and diving through the research that keeps coming out on female athlete training. And I was just so excited to put pen to paper and to publish it 6 months later. And for me, it was a really urgent project because I didn't see any guidebook out there on female athlete training. There's a few books, but they're more medical, and they're just a bunch of science papers in a book, which is fine. I mean, I read it as a professional, but I wanted to create a book where parents, coaches, and girls could digest the information. It's fun to read, even though it's scientific. I want it to be engaging and just easy to understand. So that's why I wrote it.
Well, I had a conversation with a college professor from Israel yesterday. She's at Columbia University, and we were just having discussions about book writing, and I was talking about your book. And the thing that I struggle with all the time is that we've become such. I can't believe that unless I see it in data, and I get frustrated when I hear people say that. I said sometimes the reality is what it is, and we all know the reality. And so the thing I like about you is that you've always looked at the reality, and you don't say, well, statistically from this side of it, you don't even go down that road. You literally go, hey, this is what the real is. This is what they go through. Because once you're dealing with young people on a regular basis, you don't need data points to know that if I have a group of 50 people, there are 50 different individuals going through 50 different problems with 50 different things around them. And so what I like about it is how you marginalize things to the point where you set things in conditions to where you can take care of that individual, and not to say that I'm going to lump everybody into one large category, because everybody's problems are different, especially when it comes to training people, And then Mike had your website up. So if anybody's looking to get on your website, then Mike finally found it for me. There you go. Erica's got this killer website, guys. And then you have to negotiate the cost effectiveness of with the pricing with her, because that's the way it works. Because she's gonna look down and see what you need, set you in the right parameters for you to get that training, and then in that way you're paying for what you need, not for what you think you need. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, that's a true statement. And yeah, I mean, the way I structure my program for in-person and remote, it is very individualized. So a lot of my programs are based on the chronological age of the athlete, but also the training age. So maybe they're an 8th grader, but they haven't been exposed to this type of training. They're going to probably start in the beginning so they can build that foundation. So it's super individualized. It's based on the off season or the in season of the athlete. The in season, we're rarely doing conditioning. We're not doing a lot of like high volume sprints or change of direction. It's more of a maintenance and recovery. So it's super individualized, but we're also tracking progress on a weekly basis. We look at 10-meter fly times, 40 yards, 20 yards, look at vertical jumps, broad jumps, and I put all the data on a phone app for both my in-person and my remote. And it's important for me to show athletes that the program's working and that their consistency is paying off. And for anyone who's slacking or doing that one time a week, then the data shows it. The data shows that they're not improving. So the program's really structured, and there's a purpose behind it. And I want people to know exactly what they're getting out of it, because me just improving speed and strength, that's the bare minimum. But some trainers don't even show the data or the improvements. And I just laugh because, you see all these people on Instagram, oh, I do speed and agility. And it's like, well, no one's tracking anything or showing parents what they're paying however much a month for. So I try to be like really structured in what I'm doing.
Oh no, and one thing I like is, so do you work with analysis? Like, the colleges have morphed, and so it used to be you show up, you get stretched, you train for 10 days, then you go play your first game. Now, like I was down at University of Florida, I was down at Central Florida. I went to like several different colleges over the last couple of years due to ID camps, but I actually went there and some of the teams were training. And before they even got on the field, the first 5 days, they literally were doing to see if you can even make the cut, the physical fitness side. So how do you prepare your older students to understand that it's not just about skill and about touches and technique, that when you show up, your first thing you walk into is a fit test?
Yeah, I love working with the upperclassmen in high school and preparing them for that preseason, because looking back at my freshman preseason at Hopkins, it was hard, but I put in the work that summer before freshman year, and I still was like digging in that preseason. But I made top 3 on every fitness test out of 30 girls as a freshman. but it wasn't easy to do that. I mean, we were running like 400 meters, 200 meters, half field suicides. I forget what the conditioning test was, but it was like 20 minutes of that, like track runs and then like suicides. And this is in like 95-degree weather in Baltimore humidity. And I just like can't reiterate enough to like the girls going into college, you have to start that summer training early. You have to start it, I would recommend, at least 3 to 4 months out. And it becomes really dangerous when you even wait a month to start preparing for that preseason, not just because you might not show up physically fit, but you can also increase your chance of injury if you're not ready for the demands of two-a-days or those preseason scrimmages, right, or just like all the extra change of direction. And that's usually how ACLs happen in that preseason, is they're not used to that amount of load and that spike in load and that increased change of direction. So I recommend girls start at least 3 to 4 months out and slowly build up to that preseason training, and not just to get like fitness test fit. You want to pass your fitness test, but you also want to prepare your game fitness. So making sure you're ready for the demands of the small-sided games. You're still touching the ball in the summer while you're doing all this speed and strength and conditioning, and you're getting out and playing pickup soccer. And one thing I did before Hopkins freshman year was I played pickup soccer with boys, because it was great. And I recognize that the guys' game is faster pace, and they were stronger and more physical than me. And I had to really level up my playing. So when I played pickup soccer with the guys and then finally got to Hopkins preseason, playing against college girls was really easy for me because it was a higher intensity than what I was about to go into. And I think it's really important to put yourself in uncomfortable and challenging environments before that college season.
No, and that is a great point, is that I always believe in that scrimmage between male athletes and female athletes actually helps with people picking up their speed, picking up their skill, because your touch, you can't hold the ball as long, because boys come a lot faster as they got older. Now, when they're 10, when you guys are 10 and 10 years old, even, it's kind of even, Steve. I've seen the girl teams beat the snot out of the boys because the boys overcommit, but as time progresses, things change. So, Erica, the one thing is you got videos online. You have your book out. You have people can get in contact with you. So right now you are located in what area for general reasons, so people kind of know where you're located, so if they want to do a time to distance. Because what I'm going to do is, once we're done with this, we're going to clean it up, and then we're going to push it out to a bunch of different soccer teams and people that in my network here in the Tampa area. So if your phone gets blown up, it ain't my fault, Mike G. Move.
So yeah, I'm in Lutz, Florida, and I actually train out of home, gym in my home, probably the best thing since COVID. So I do that, and it's all small group training. Of course, everyone's on their individual program, but I've just found that the group setting is just more competitive, and we can socialize a little bit and meet some people from other clubs. I don't work with just one club specifically. I work with Florida Premier, TBU, Florida Flames, Lutz Rangers. So anyone who's looking to get better twice a week at minimum and to commit, you're ready for the training. I don't just take on anyone and everyone. I just really want you to be on board and the training to impact you, because I've seen amazing things happen with consistency and dedication. And I'm not the shortcut type of person. So, and you know this.
Hey, so me and Mike G are glad you came on today. Hey guys, check out Erica. We're going to be promoting this all through the soccer season and going in fall, because soccer season is on its way here. It starts August soccer season and runs all the way to January. So you will be getting this a lot, because this is all about getting ready for the next level. And Erica, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. This is awesome.
And as me and Mike G always say, keep it rolling.